Koji Kondo, the composer of so many iconic themes. Many songs will come to your head when you hear his name, including one of my personal favorites, Zelda's Lullaby. It has beautiful orchestral textures. It feels lighthearted, floaty, and yet solemn. This song, in one word, extraordinary. The song originally comes from the game A Link to the Past, but I wanted to do my analysis on a more well-known version from the game Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time was huge when it came out, being known for having some great graphics, which were 3D. Its world was tremendous, it had a well-fleshed-out story, and it is still fun to this day. It was actually said to have been a turning point in the Zelda series, and I believe that it was. Ever since, we've had nothing but great Zelda games, except for Age of Calamity. That one's terrible. Before we dive headlong into all the theory behind this piece, I would like to give a little context. After all, context is key. Zelda is the Princess of Hyrule. You first meet her in your journey as a child. She sends you on a mission to help save Hyrule from a man with the evil eyes. Link, our hero, of course accepts. But before he has a chance to leave, Zelda's personal guardian, Impa, teaches Link a song called Zelda's Lullaby, the only song that could get Zelda to sleep as an infant. And this is where we begin. A couple of questions probably come to mind when hearing this song and about its context. First and foremost, does this song actually qualify as a lullaby? The second, how do we replicate the techniques found in this song? I hope to answer both these questions for you today. Okay, long-winded intro over. Now we begin. First, does Zelda's theme qualify as a real lullaby? To answer this question, we need to first answer what makes up the typical attributes of a lullaby. I found 6 attributes that I deemed the most important for the qualifications of a lullaby. 1. The 6/8 or 3/4 time signature. 2. They will be slow. 3. They are simple. 4. Have repetitions. 5. Long pauses between sections. And 6. They have large pitch ranges. This is our outline. First, the 6/8 or 3/4 time signature. The reason for these time signatures are to mimic a swaying feel, like rocking a baby to sleep. In Zelda's theme, we see that it is, in fact, written in the 3/4 time signature. We do get a rocking feel from the song, but it's very slow. In fact, it's every 2 measures that we finish rocking back and forth. This really solidifies the next guideline. Lullabies are slow. This helps babies get to sleep faster. A song that is slow tends to relieve tension, but a song that is fast feels driving and ramps up the tension. Here, listen to this. Feels way more intense than a slow song, right? In Zelda's theme, we have 110 beats per minute. This time is considered a medium tempo, but like I pointed out earlier, this song still feels slow because the rocking is dialed down, tricking our brain into thinking it's actually 55 beats per minute. The next point is simplicity. This also helps the baby sleep better, and yes, I would call this song simple. Especially because when you're singing a lullaby, you are only going to be singing the melody. In the first section of the piece, which is known as the A theme, we have the first 4 bars laid out in a descending fashion. In the next 4, we see it leap up before falling back down. In the repeat of the first theme, A, we have the same motion, except it stays on track when it leaps up to transition to the second section, the B theme. In the B theme, we see this descending figure stretched out over all 8 bars. In the B theme, we see this descending figure stretched out over all 8 bars. And that's about as simple as you can get for the shape of a melody. Okay, moving on to repetitions. Having a song repeat over and over again encourages the baby to relax, and this song, being a video game song, is meant to loop for hours on end. I would just leave it there and say that's good, but for the sake of diving into a rabbit trail, we can look at the entire form. I laid this out earlier as an A-A-B form, with the A theme played twice and the B theme only once. This form is typical of blues and rock music. That would make sense as Koji Kondo was in a rock band during his high school years. Whether he made the decision to use this form consciously or not, it's still cool. The next regularity of a lullaby is the long pauses between sections. The reason being that it will help the baby's slower capacity for processing music. This is the first one I'm gonna have to disagree with. There are these richuandandos, or a gradual deceleration in the tempo, between sections, but not exactly a long pause. I don't think that slowing down is gonna help the baby process any faster. However, I'm no lullaby expert, so correct me down in the comments if I'm wrong. The final point I wanted to talk about was the large pitch ranges. Large pitch ranges are great for giving a sense of love or affection. Again, this song doesn't fail to deliver. Just in the melody, we span over 1 octave in the A themes, and in the B theme, we go even higher, breaking that 2-octave barrier. So we see that this piece follows the outline pretty closely. And some of you might be wondering, aren't all great composers good at breaking the rules? How come Koji Kondo doesn't here? To be honest, I thought that too. But also, why not stay within the guidelines? I think that a common pitfall young composers fall into is thinking one of 2 things. I've got to follow the rules completely to be good. Or, I've got to break all the rules to be good. And while both of those are legitimate ways of composing, you will not be truly good until you've mastered the art of knowing when to cross over into each side. Yes, breaking the rules is good, but you can't break them until you know them. So make it a priority to learn the art of both. Okay, I'm done ranting. Moving on. So we know that when the lullaby was sung to Zelda, it was just a melody. So where does everything else come in? Like the harmony and instrumentation? Well, if the melody symbolizes her infancy, then I believe that the harmony and instrumentation are a symbol of her growth as a person. This might seem like a bit of a stretch to you, but hear me out. The first time we see Zelda is as a child, and we get some instruments that imitate that. The ocarina carries the melody. This instrument just sounds childlike in nature. Also, it resembles the fact that Zelda is still in possession of the Ocarina of Time. We also have the glockenspiel, which comes in the B theme. This sounds like baby bells to me, and is a great contrast to the huge bells we would normally get from royalty. But they're small bells, which sound so young. Then there's the harp. This obviously just sounds very floaty. This could tie back to Zelda's childish solemnness. And of course you can't forget the strings, which sound sophisticated, like her amount of wisdom. Now you're probably lost right now, thinking, how does that tie into her age? Well, when you meet her again near the end of the game, as an adult, the instrumentation changes. Instead of an ocarina, we get violins. The glockenspiel is cut out of the equation completely. The harp is replaced with the piano, and the low strings are joined by an electric organ. Sounds way more grown up, right? Now, the instrumentation's great and all that, but I did say that the harmony is also a symbol of her growth, right? Well, it's not really, because it doesn't change for a child and adult versions, but we can still dive into the ocean of theory that surrounds this piece. In the first section, the harmony is very static, with the only movement being these slow steps up, or this chromatically descending figure. On the descent, I said something that probably caught some of your guys' attention. I said it was descending chromatically. What in Hyrule does that mean? Descending chromatically means that you are descending in semitones, or halftones if you like that term better. If you don't know what that is, you can think of it as the distance between a white note and a black note on the piano. And chords descending chromatically means that every note in the chord is descending in semitones. This hits us with our first out-of-key chord, the B-flat diminished 7 chord. Cue the classically trained musicians choking. This is not only an out-of-key chord, but a jarring one as well. Diminished chords are very dissonant in nature and don't sound good. Take a listen. Not easy to stomach, right? The reason they don't sound good is because of the interval relationships. What you will find if you look at one is a stack of all minor thirds. This sounds devastating. On top of that, if you look at the root and the flat 5, you will see this interval, the tritone. This interval is known as one of the most dissonant intervals in music. The diminished 7 chord takes this a step farther, with another minor third stacked on top of our already dissonant chord. This creates 2 tritone intervals. Much harder to stomach, right? Even though we have this dissonant chord, I don't think it sounds that bad here. And I would argue that the danger this chord implies resembles Zelda's knowledge of the evil in the world, and that Ganondorf is the prime danger to it. In the B theme, we transition to C major, a little change from our original C Lydian standpoint. The chords are descending in a 4-3-2-1 fashion. This is a simple way to descend, which is typical of the song, remember the outline. The 4-1 descent is repeated in the last 4 bars, but with a little twist. We have another out-of-key chord. This one's not diminished. Calm down, classically trained artists. We move down from the 4 chord still, but instead of landing on the 1, we land on the 2, which sets up a cool cadence, the 2-5-1 cadence, which is typical of jazz music. You jazz nerds might know this better as the backdoor 2-5-1. However, this is not your typical 2-5-1 cadence, because of a major 2 instead of a minor 2. This major 2 chord is a smooth way to transition back to our C Lydian, giving us that repeat which is so common in video game music. Zelda's Lullaby is a great song. Playing through the game for the very first time, I can't think of another song on the soundtrack that hit me as hard as this one did. It can actually qualify as a lullaby. It uses some great orchestration. It feels just right. It's symbolic. And in conclusion, that is why Zelda's Lullaby is so good. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I really have fun doing this, and if you want to see more of this type of content, why not tell me down in the comments? If you thought of some critiques, why not throw a couple of those in there as well? If you enjoyed the video, a like would be appreciated. If you didn't like it, cool. I can't really see if you disliked it anyways. If you really enjoyed the video and want to see more like this, why not consider subscribing? Anyways, that's all for now. So as a few parting words, keep learning and stay out of a minor mood.